I would like to introduce Ava Gardner to you in this way, not by her green eyes, nor by the phrase you have heard countless times, the most beautiful woman in Hollywood. I would like to introduce her with a quote. Toward the end of her life, tired, ill, and weary of all the turmoil, a reporter asked her why she still took on film roles. Only these words escaped her lips. "I do it for the money, darling, always for the money." That's it. She summed up her entire purpose in a single sentence. No illusions, no putting on an act. Just a farm girl from North Carolina who somehow became the most photographed face in the world. I'm going to do this differently tonight. Picture us in a bar. It's late. The lighting is dim. I'm going to tell you about Ava Gardner, the way you tell a friend a story about someone who is no longer with us. Rumor has it she could outswear a longshoreman and drink most establishments dry. Before studio contracts even existed, she was born on December 24th, 1922, in a small place in North Carolina known to everyone as Grabtown. She was a girl named Ava Lavinia Gardner, born as the seventh child of a poor tobacco farming family. When Ava was 2, the bank foreclosed on the family farm. Her father became a sharecropper, while her mother ran a boarding house to support the family. Ava's father passed away when she was 16. The family asked a clergyman to sit with him during his final hours, but the clergyman never came. By 1945, she was already a rising MGM contract player, and she had read only 2 books in her entire life, the Bible and Gone with the Wind. That was it. The studio system took a farm girl with no acting experience and a southern accent so thick that the studio required her to take voice lessons and transformed her into one of the most striking screen personalities of the era. Somewhere between the first and second phases of his life, he felt sufficiently ashamed of this shortcoming and spent the rest of his life far from the cameras in secret, reading obsessively and trying to complete his education. Let's talk about her first husband, because the real story is funnier and stranger than what the press reported. On her first day visiting the studio lot, Ava met Mickey Rooney, who was one of the world's biggest movie stars at the time. Rooney took a great interest in her. Ava had been raised according to the old-fashioned values of North Carolina, taught that she should save herself for marriage, and she took this very seriously. The two of them had to obtain official permission from the MGM bosses to get married. They married in 1942. Their marriage lasted 1 year and, according to reports, ended due to her husband's infidelity. The reputation of the wild Ava Gardner actually begins here. Her drinking, smoking, staying out late, and sharp tongue. For her first marriage had collapsed, and she decided to make the most of it. Her third husband was Frank Sinatra. Let's look at the stranger details regarding this husband, whom everyone remembers only vaguely. Their marriage began to fall apart in the early 1950s, and it is said that Sinatra was devastated by the situation and attempted suicide. One of the most famous entertainers in American history was nearly completely ruined because of this relationship. Yet, years later, even after the divorce and after both had moved on to completely different lives, they never lost touch. They maintained communication for the rest of their lives. When he suffered a stroke in 1986, he arranged for his hospital room. Whenever he needed a specific specialist, he organized a private jet, complete with medical personnel, to fly him to Los Angeles and back, personally covering the costs. He was financially independent from the moment he set foot in Hollywood at the age of 18. As for him, he appeared at a specific moment, precisely at a crucial juncture. Years after the divorce, Sinatra continued to keep a statue of Ava, left over from the film The Barefoot Contessa, in his backyard, even long after their marriage had ended. However, after remarrying Barbara Marx, his new wife eventually forced him to get rid of the statue. For years, the grown man had quietly kept the statue of his ex-wife in his garden, almost like a private shrine. As even his third wife later admitted, he always harbored affection for Ava. This is not tabloid gossip. That is simply how things were. Let's fast forward a bit. By the 1970s, Ava is a middle-aged woman, and in the industry, aging actresses are treated like products past their expiration date. Instead of quietly slipping into character roles, she does something that hardly any of her peers would even deign to attempt. During the filming of the 1974 disaster movie Earthquake, she explicitly tells the director that she wants to perform her own stunts. All of it, falling concrete blocks, iron bars, chaos, Yet right in the midst of it all is him, at an age when the industry no longer expects anything from him. He refuses to use a stunt double. A woman who had been valued almost entirely for her appearance for decades decided, late in her career, to prove, both physically and vocally, that she was stronger than the town that had made her famous. This is where the night gets a little colder. In 1968, concerned particularly about the uterine cancer that had killed her own mother, Ava underwent uterine surgery as a purely preventive measure. That same year, tax issues in Spain, where he had lived since 1955, forced him to move to London for the last time. He spent the final 22 years of his life there. In his final years, his closest companions were not studio executives or old Hollywood friends. They were Carmen Vargas, the housekeeper who had worked for him for a long time, and a Welsh corgi named Morgan. She died of bronchial pneumonia in London in January 1990 at the age of 67. After her death, her maid and her dog were not simply left behind. Her former co-star and lifelong friend, Gregory Peck, personally took both of them in. So this is the woman behind the legend, the one with the green eyes and the martini glass. A farmer's daughter who read 2 books and yet became a legend. A woman who needed her boss's permission to marry, yet later required no one's permission for anything. A woman who, for years, carried on a secret affair in another man's backyard without making any effort. A 50-year-old woman is fleeing the real concrete collapsing upon her because she refuses to be treated like a fragile, old photograph. He didn't make any of it out to be something noble. In his own words, most of it, the fame, the movies, the whole spectacle, was just for the money, darling. Always for the money. This might be the most honest thing anyone in that sector has ever said out loud.